17,000 feet foundation, our name came from the highest pass that our team had to cross to reach one of our remotest schools. There's a school called Lingshid, and at that time, about 6 years ago, it took us about 3.5 days to reach that school, and we had to cross a pass of around 17,000 feet. And when we reached that school, we had 100 kids waiting for us, lining the mountainside, just waiting because they knew we came. We were 3 hours late, but they were waiting by the mountainside for us. And we were going to the school carrying books and stationery and furniture and so on. And it was absolutely an overwhelming sight for us to know that, beyond mountain passes, beyond a 3-day walk, there are schools, there are government schools, there are teachers, there are children willing and eager to learn. So 17,000 feet is like a reminder that mountains are not just for trekking. There are people who live there. There are passes to conquer and there are villages to be reached out to. So that's why 17,000 feet foundation. And through this, we hope to remain true to our mission, which is to impact the lives of remote communities who live in very isolated mountain villages, into villages where people haven't gone before. I came here to Ladakh to trek. I had no idea what I was in store for. I had misjudged the mountains. I had no idea about the people. And honestly, nobody at that point or even now know about the real Ladakh. The Ladakh, which is now opened up, is to tourism. And what we see is the tourism bits. Then even that wasn't there. And I had by which time quit my corporate career, and I was teaching in a very nice private school in Gurgaon. Coming from a background where I teach highly privileged kids in a beautiful school with best infrastructure, I come on this trek into an isolated remote village which had just one house. So passing through this village, which is exactly one house, I passed through another village which had say 20 homes, but it had a tiny school with just 5 kids. Just 5 kids and 1 teacher. Okay, it just blew my mind. I was swarmed by so many emotions of understanding this is a part of our country, never knew this existed. I stayed here, I was very sick, but I stayed here, did another trek, saw a few more villages. By the time I came back, I realized that I knew what I wanted to do. It was hard for me to fathom why things hadn't reached here. If people can live here for centuries in these tiny little mountain hamlets, so why then why can't support reach there? Why can't development, the kind of development that they seek? I don't mean tall buildings and elevators and fancy cars. I just mean the basic stuff. They want a good education. They want jobs for their kids. They want decent income for their children. Why can't it reach? So I changed my life. So it's been now 6 years. So I started 17,000 feet with my husband and our Ladakhi partner. So 3 of us are the founding team. It's been 6 years. We now have 3 offices. And we're doing great work. Our focus is to help people in remote communities live better lives in their chosen regions without being forced to migrate. Parents are sending their children as young as 3 or 4 years old out into the city to stay and study alone. They stay in dormitories or hostels or with relatives. One set of our programs focus on education, on improving education in the remote government schools. Why government schools? Simply because in that village, that's all that exists. If you can imagine a village which is just 30 homes, one government school, maybe a mosque or a monastery, depending on the kind of people settled there. So we have a lot of programs focusing on education. One, we've set up libraries, we try and improve infrastructure at the school. We train teachers on various methodologies. This year we're electrifying and digitizing about 150 schools. You won't believe it, there are actually 1,000 schools in all of Ladakh. And the average school strength in Ladakh is 25 kids per school, not per class. So, the enrollment ratio is off the charts. Some grades don't have kids, some grades just have 1 or 2 kids. So all of these are focused on improving education. Then we have a lot of projects. We try to also gain attention into these villages. We realize we can't do this alone. We have to work with the local people, the local government, and we have to work with outsiders, specifically Indians. We want Indians and the rest of the world to come in and contribute. Be aware that there is a part of their country they know nothing about. So we try to drive, if we can drive income to these villages, that's the second part of our program which we are also working on simultaneously. A small foray we've done into that is through volunteerism, what we call volunteerism. It's actually volunteering in these villages to help us do our work. But what it actually does is it gets people to come into the real Ladakh, not just the Ladakh visited by tourists, but these are villages that your tourist map will not show you. So you work with us as our team, you stay in a village. As you stay in a village, the village gets income. As you stay in that village, the school gets facilities, better facilities. Either you sponsor them or you adopt that school. So volunteerism is another way that we're trying to do, and over I think 5 years now, we've sent about 350 volunteers. So we do an average about 70 to 80. This is not for everyone. You need a different mindset. Okay, it's not a talent. So there's obviously a specific age range. So if you're 16 and above, you can volunteer, but even if you're 16 and above, you need an adult to volunteer. But what you need is to understand that you're going into a remote community, which is a great, very content community in many ways. We're not going there to change them. Okay, so you will not get what you're expected, what you generally expect, which means there won't be hotels, there are not going to be grocery stores and so on and so forth. So the mindset of going there to serve, okay, rather than get my comforts while I serve, that's the one thing you need. So we've set up libraries in 250 schools, okay? But the libraries don't run by themselves. The teachers have to run them, but the teacher may forget. So it's our job to go and motivate them, run workshops repeatedly. My staff does this the year round. But if you come in, you look different. You're from a different country, a different state. So you, with your language, your culture, and your background, you bring a breath of fresh air to those children because they get to see the outside world by meeting with you. So that actually serves to get the kids excited in what they're doing. And for starting this year, we're also going to be working on educational modules, digital modules. Because for the first time, we're electrifying and digitizing 150 schools. It's a pretty massive project and we're nervous and excited. As every non-profit goes, we struggle for funding. Ladakh is not everyone's cup of tea. And here in India, we have CSR. So that's corporate social responsibility, and we reach out to corporates to help us fund our programs. Ladakh is so far off the horizon. So one part is, like I said, now we've adopted 250 villages and schools. 90% of our villages do not have electricity. Many don't have roads. There's no mobile connectivity. So I can't really show them what's there. We ask them to send their employees to volunteer in these schools for 10 days or more. But what happens with our volunteers? So volunteers who come in also contribute to be part of the program. So they also donate. So retail funding is great for us. More than the funding, our volunteers become our brand ambassadors and they talk to others about our work. They bring more nice people involved in. It's a young girl and her aunt. They came here 4 years ago for the first time. She was in the 10th grade, I believe, 9th grade. We sent her to a village to volunteer and they were so moved by the whole experience and by, helping us out. And they came with many of their ideas, a lot of which we've incorporated as well. And they came back a second year. In the third year, they just went last week. They were here for the fourth year. It's not just an experience for them. They're not just contributing their money. They're actually doing hands-on work. So it's impacted them and us in such a way. We've been so humbled by what she's done. And she has crowdfunded. She's raised almost, I think, about 20 lakhs, if I'm not mistaken. It's thanks to her that we've been able to set up, 30-40 libraries in Kargil. And she's personally adopted a school. She's even written a book, published a few hundred copies, it's also being distributed across. I think we're all waiting for something to happen. Okay, and I think most of us feel this, that we want to do something. We've been fortunate to have good lives. But I think the mistake we're making here is we're waiting for something to happen, and that something is a moving target. So we never take that plunge. Okay, even if I say this, even if you take a few years off, explore the world, do something different, contribute during that time, all is not lost. Women do it all the time for their kids, for example, right? It's a huge leap of faith they take for their kids. So people can do it. Women do it for many years, so hence it's hard to do that. But if we have this sense of security and comfort in ourselves, that no matter what we do, we can succeed. We have faith, we have brains, we have a heart, 2 hands and legs, we're good. So I say go out there and do it. There's so much work in this world to be done, and we're just not doing it. The rat race is never ending. It's a spinning wheel and we're not stopping. So when we started thinking about Ladakh, we were told by many people, even a few Ladakhis, saying, are you guys nuts? You're talking of Ladakh, and not just Ladakh, talking of rural Ladakh. So some people also have this, that what one person can do. How can I alone make a difference? So that becomes another deterrent from taking that final leap of faith. It's been wonderful. I've had wonderful people get along, people spread the word, volunteers like Ananya, who we just mentioned. People have come in and done this. I never expected it. I get goosebumps looking at how people have joined us. Funding is hard, but even when a 10,000 rupee check comes in, I feel super grateful. Okay, so that's what keeps us going. You'll get it, it happens. So good begets good. So.